Okay, first item would be roll call.
Jay Reeves,
Here?
Bill Warner,
Here.
Michelle Hazen,
Here.
Kyra Lewis. Present. Elizabeth Hawk, Michael Hill.
Here.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chair, may I just make a correction to something that I mentioned at last meeting? Danielle Massey? Massey. She is not the one moving to Kentucky. It was Elizabeth Hausauer.
Good, because she was a friend of mine. I was a little confused.
But Danielle told me it was okay for me to tell you all. She is pregnant,
Yes.
which is why she hasn't been around.
Wow.
She's pregnant.
Fine.
Danielle.
Oh. Wow.
So I just wanted to correct that
Okay.
for you.
Okay.
Wow. Congrats.
All righty. Next item up would be approval of the minutes.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item up would be public comment. Is anybody from the public that wishes to comment on something that's not already on the agenda? Okay. State your name and
My name's Donald Shepard. I'm People's Representative, running for mayor. And my comment tonight is that I see on here about drafting of the minutes. And I was going to ask a question, what's that about? And that's a historical, it says here December 7th. So this already happened, or?
I'm not following you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Says board review the drafting of the drafting minutes from the September 21st, 2021 meeting and vote to approve the minutes. And I was wondering, why is this taking place? So I didn't understand it, so I was asking that.
I'm not sure what it is you're referring to, but this
Okay.
is the Historic Preservation Board meeting, and at every meeting, we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
That's what it's about, though.
It's a previous
The-
meeting.
My other question is that if I still have time, I don't see the time thing working. Is that, I don't know if you do it in this meeting or not, but they do it at the city hall. So, is that, in my trailer park, they put it on our, contract that there should be no fences within the property. And they have, came up with a fence in the front of the property by the road, and I was like wondering, why that's taking place, because it's in the contract of our rental agreement not to have that, and so.
Has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Unless you're in Duck Pond, Pleasant Street, or in the southeast, or University Heights, we have no
Okay,
jurisdiction.
that's all I had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next item up, the public hearing. Ms. Kaufman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's public hearing, your first public hearing. And we swear in the public? So if you are here to speak on any of the public hearing items, can you please stand and raise your right hand? Are you speaking on any?
Stuff on the agenda.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide the Historic Preservation Board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. This is petition HP 21-00115. It is a certificate of appropriateness to replace windows and a door in a Florida room. The address is 805 Northeast 4th Terrace. This is in the Duck Pond. It is a contributing structure. and it is dated circa 1928. This is a beautiful two-story colonial revival home. It's got a classical door surround that features engaged pilasters. On either side of the property, there are two one-story rooms. One was probably an open porch. Both of them are now capped with balcony railings. And the applicant is doing some upgrades to the southern side on the one-story Florida room on the south. They would like to replace non-historic aluminum awning windows. They're proposing 1/1 single hung sash. They also want to replace the existing wood panel door with a fiberglass door that will match the existing door. So the original Florida Master Site File form for this property wasn't found, but there was a photo for it. So in the photos, the windows at that were already what you see existing. So this tells me that those awning windows probably were put in the 50s or 60s, and this was most likely an open porch, a screened open porch.
Yeah.
The Secretary of the Interior standards that I would use for this particular case would be standard 2. The historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces shall be avoided. They aren't removing any historic materials as far as what I consider would be original materials. The aluminum awning windows are not something we generally want to keep. And I think the 1/1 configuration is much more in keeping with the style of the house. Staff is recommending that the application 21-00115 for the replacement of those non-historic windows and door be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, is anybody here representing this item? The owner? Okay.
So, so this was probably a screened-in porch, and
Yeah.
you're saying these windows were put in the 50s? Even these right here on the side?
Yeah, those are not original to that house.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, those definitely don't look like they're original to the house at all. So that's what I was like, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Move to approve with the notation that this is not the replacement of original indoor occupied space windows. If that were the case, I would not be moving to approve, but I would mark this as a unique condition and moving to approve.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a second?
I have a question. So we have any more information on the windows or?
Vinyl, right?
Yes, there were more, if you went to your link that all the board packets are on, I don't print out everything for you, or it would be a monumental amount of paper, including the whole COA. But they did provide like the specifications of the window. This little mock-up, this computer mock-up is a little hard to read because it's not got the rest of the house attached to it. But the point of it was to show you that it's a 1/1 configuration.
Yep. Big improvement in my book. Okay, we still have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I still have one question,
Okay.
then I might second.
Yeah.
1/1 I think is good because most of the other windows are in the house are 1/1.
Yeah.
But this problem comes up often, and I know we're
replacing non-historic windows, but is there really no other alternative than vinyl?
Well, there are other alternatives. I mean, there's,
Within cost?
I mean,
have any information on the door that's being,
Yeah, it's a fiberglass door,
It's exactly the same configuration, but
Colonial.
in fiberglass instead of wood.
right, colonial pattern.
Now, on the email that I sent you, the attachments that you were sent does have the whole item, including the COA. But I didn't send you the link to the city's website, because I figure by now you know where to go to look for that.
All right, any other questions? We still have a motion on the table and no second.
So I will second, but I want to explicitly emphasize that this is only for the Florida room. And
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, of course.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
okay, I just want to make sure that's in the record.
Well,
'cause
that's in the staff report.
No, it's only for that room.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Just as long I will second as long as it's explicitly for the Florida room.
Okay. All right, if no further comment, any public comment? Not hearing any, so. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. It'll be a big improvement.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, are you ready to move on?
Yes, please.
Public hearing 2, this is petition HP 21-00119. This is a certificate of appropriateness to replace an existing shingle roof with a metal 5E crimp roof. The address is 116 Northwest 9th Street. This is in University Heights North, and it is a contributing structure, circa 1945. And this is a very modest, one-story side gabled masonry structure. It does have some nice original features. It's got 3/1 wood windows, brick exterior and chimney. And the applicant would like to replace the current asphalt shingle roof with metal 5E crimp. So the recommended treatment for the replacement of roofing materials on a contributing structure is to match what was on the structure originally. The existing composition roof shingle has probably been the home's primary roofing material for many decades. There is no evidence that I could find or was submitted to our staff that the property originally had a metal roof. The Secretary of the Interior standards that apply in this situation are standards 2 and 4. Standard 2 is that the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. There is no documentation to determine that the roof was originally metal. Therefore, it would not be recommended to introduce a new material not a part of the original structure. When these individual properties continue to make changes to the roofing material, the result of many properties undertaking such change over time can have a dramatic effect on the overall character of the neighborhood. Standard 4 is most properties change over time, and those changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right shall be retained and preserved. So it's difficult. Oh, yay, I'm going to add you as present. Thank you. It's difficult to say what the original roofing material was because we don't know. But we do know that this building has had composition shingles for quite some time. I do want, my recommendation is that this applicant be allowed to put on a new roof as needed, but that it be a composition shingle. Color and style, if it's your pleasure, could be left to staff's discretion once they select it, so they don't have to come back here another month. And I do want to say this about this applicant. This particular building, they have gotten a staff COA already for these properties for the replacement of the windows because they're going out of their way to do a 3/1 window. And that's unusual, so I applaud them for that. And I really am glad that this applicant, because they are doing multiple renovations in this area. This is not the only structure they're working on. It's really glad, good to see that in this neighborhood, and I'd love to support them as much as I can. But I don't recommend the metal roof because I have this fear that once we start doing it just based on the fact that, oh, people want it, there's no real basis from the standards, then you're going to start to see a whole change in character of the neighborhood over time as all these buildings start going to metal roofs.
Okay, all right. Do we have questions of the board?
Not yet.
Okay, is anybody here representing this? Okay,
Good evening, my name's Britton Jones. Basically asking for a metal roof for a couple reasons. These 3-tab shingles, they're a lot weaker, they're less durable, and they're not as long lasting as a metal roof will be. A 3-tab shingle is going to last 12 to 15 years in Florida standard weather, whereas this metal roof is going to last 30 to 45. Matter of fact, here's a permit from 2013 for 3-tab shingle replacement on this roof that already needs to be done again. So this roof, being a 3-tab shingle, was already replaced 7-8 years ago, and I've got to do it again. If I replace it with a 3-tab, I'm going to be back here 7 years from now, spending the money and the time to do it. Furthermore, the energy efficiency on a metal roof is much, much better. The product we're asking to use first is a Energy Star approved product. Right now, what we're dealing with a lot of these older homes that are rentals is we have to get them up to standards for the new renter's right requirements as far as energy efficiency, that type of stuff. And this will help us to do that. As well as it's metal roof's a lot more environmentally friendly than asphalt shingles or asphalt shingles being constantly put into the dumps. Once more, we chose the 5V because it's what historically was used on a house back in 1945. Do we know this roof was originally metal? I don't know, but we don't know it wasn't. Here's pictures of the roofs of the houses surrounding us, literally on each side and across the street, are all the galvanized metal roof that we're asking to use. So that's why we want to go with the metal roof, and we did pick the 5V because it's what was used. It allows us to still maintain the historic quality of the neighborhood, but gives us a lot better, a lot more energy efficient process without having to constantly have to change these roofs over and over again. So that's what we're trying to do is give a better product to potential tenant, but lower their energy bill, but also keep the historic look in the neighborhood. And I mean, looking at the picture of, I don't have a picture of this home, but I think we'd all agree a nice metal roof with a historic look would look a lot better than 3-tab shingles. So that's why we requested the 5V. It is a more expensive roof. I mean, we could save money doing shingles, but over the life of the roof, we won't save money, and it'll be a lot more energy efficient.
I have a couple of comments.
sure.
So, familiar with this scenario, this house in particular, and the one next door, and I think even on the photos you can tell, this with the metal roof, that's probably a home that was built in the 20s versus this one's probably a little bit later. I also can see from the photo here that there's a tremendous amount of tree cover that is probably affecting the longevity of the roof, being a shingle. And then third item is that, certainly replacing, I know this house is built on a slab. I believe it's made out of brick, so it's a different kind of architecture.
It's actually a concrete block house.
Block, okay. Yeah. So, maybe with some tree work and that would salvage the roof, but also there are shingles that have a lot longer lifespan than,
Yeah.
just a
Oh, I
standard
understand. I
3-tab.
mean, if you want architectural shingles, which I think we would agree is nothing of the period. That's why we went with the metal roof. I mean, we could put architectural shingles on there. That would save me a lot of money, but now you have shingles that don't match the period of the, historic quality of the homes around it. That's why we went with the 5V and willing to spend the money to do that. And just the economics of it makes sense, and that's what, we should focus on here with good energy efficiency, still maintaining the historic quality, a lot longer life, much better product. I mean, I agree with, and we try to on our homes, maintain the historic quality, but there comes a point to where there is a cost associated with that. Doing the roof 3 times, whereas I can do it once, there comes a point to where we find alternatives that still allow us to maintain the historic quality. And that's what we've done here with the 5V.
Okay. All right. Further board comment, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. Well, everybody here has heard me go on and on about 5E crimp. However, this is a very modest structure. And also there's a contextual consideration here in terms of the frequency of the use of 5E in that immediate neighborhood. Whereas 5E was probably not or metal was probably not what was on it, it's hard to say what it might have been. It was too late probably to have had wood shingle. But to me, this particular application, it seems reasonable to use the 5E crimp.
Okay.
So I was going to say something similar. I really don't like replacing roofs in historic neighborhoods with 5V crimp especially. But considering the fact it is a small home and so many of the homes immediately around it have the same roof, and taking into consideration the energy efficiency, I would have a hard time saying no to this. Just because it's not like it's the very first home in the neighborhood that's going to a metal roof. And I'm not sure if previous boards approved these roofs or if they did, so, okay, that's just my comment.
That's why we picked the 5V, because we know in the past that's the roof that the board prefers in a metal roof.
Depends on the area. If you're in the Northeast, no.
Gotcha.
Well, it's also the structure. I mean, if this was a very prominent, what was a high-style home?
Yes, sir.
No, there's no way. Even if it was sort of a mid-range,
When this
that
is
was clearly not appropriate. This is an example of something that, to me, strikes me as an appropriate use of
right.
the 5E roof.
Just to clarify something though, the fasteners on the 5E crimped roofs are what fail, usually
Yes,
within around 25 years. That's why they only give it that much of a warranty.
Right.
The other thing is that the insurance industry is looking at metal roofs right now, limiting their lifespan just like they've done with shingle roofs.
Correct, but
So-
typically is a good bit longer than the shingle roof.
Has been, but that may be changing real shortly,
Yeah.
so just be aware of that.
Yeah, believe me, I'm aware of the insurance stuff with roofs.
Yes, everybody is in the
One of
construction
the reasons
business.
I'm here.
Gotcha. All right, any further comments or questions from the board? Any comments from the public?
My name's Donald Shepard, and I was wondering why they chose to go with wood across the top here and not the slatted style they had back in the other picture.
That's,
Well, I don't
that's
know.
not the
These are-
structure.
These aren't the structures, these are the neighbors' homes.
Oh,
This is the
okay.
structures
So,
in question.
I know the one picture showed wooden slats in it, and so I was questioning
That's
about,
gable
did that
venting.
get covered up or what? And,
No, this is
what
the
was
roof
the
we're
idea of
talking
it?
about.
Yeah, because of the pitch, yes.
Yeah.
And so that was my question, is that being approved by the board also, what, the fill-in according to the structure type?
We are looking at the roof surface only today.
Okay. And I approve for the 5C roofing being on houses, and I like the idea that the contractor, or this gentleman, thought of that prior to the meeting and uses that in his construction on a regular base. He doesn't try to sell the customer shingles when he knows better, and he gives the customer the choice. So
All
that's
right,
my-
we need to get back to the topic. The board needs to make a decision now.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, is there a motion from the board?
I move to approve the petitioner's request to, in this instance, use 5E crimp.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion from the board? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Can we do a roll call?
Yep.
Jay Reeves,
Nay.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Nay.
Kyra Lucas,
Nay.
Elizabeth Hawk. Michael Hill.
Aye.
Well, we have a tie.
Don't recall that happening before.
I was really hoping I'd be the odd man out here.
So, I'd like to be clear about something. If y'all don't approve this metal roof, I need a roof approved at this meeting.
Correct.
And I'm ready to go with the metal roof. We got to get this thing taken care of. And
If I may.
Yes.
So it's my job to interpret the standards as I know and see them, but, you know, people can be very persuasive. So you're not gonna hurt my feelings, you know, if you choose to go with the applicant's wishes. And I think that like I said to you before, this applicant is actually fixing up quite a few houses in the neighborhood, and we certainly appreciate that.
There's another factor here, and I think Bill hit on it a little bit. This is not a building of strong architectural character. And in this case, the energy consideration is, it's not so much that as the longevity. The factor under the heavy trees, I think, is probably
Yeah,
going to
I
be
mean,
the more important factor.
I invite you to try to cut down a tree in this city.
Yeah, it's expensive for one. All right,
Well, this is the factor we talked
You would
about
have-
a couple times too, is it more important to preserve the character of the roof or the longevity of the structure itself?
in this case, I can see the argument being made for the longevity. I'm fine changing my vote because I was pretty much,
Someone has
Close
to
to
make
the
a new
fence.
motion.
all right.
I would like to say this to the applicant specifically. For me, I cannot negate a single point you said. I agree with all of them, and I personally love metal roofs. But I have very strong morals when it comes to metal roofs in historic districts.
That's what originally was on roofs. Historically.
Not at all.
No, not,
Well,
On.
not as often as you think.
Okay.
It was more of a rare thing, to be
Or a
honest, in this
garage
city.
thing.
okay, well, let's get to it. I wish to reiterate my motion to approve due to its contextual considerations on this property and move to approve the 5E crimp.
I have a
Yes, you
question.
would put your light on first, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I believe the most important thing is to protect the structures. So, and I understand, you know, and I actually believe that putting on metal roofs, I agree with Kyra in the sense that putting on metal roofs can be really helpful. You know, I see a structure like this, though, and I mean, and we do talk about that, right? The loss of tree cover and various things. I mean, we are the tree city. We don't necessarily want to lose that designation either. You know, but I also know that there's a lot of trees here that are probably compromising the structure in many ways.
It can be a bad
probably
thing.
stand to go, just because it's a little
Or trimmed
or trimmed. Yeah, I mean.
off the roof.
Yeah, because that's surely why, I mean, because getting 7 years off of a roof is,
That's like nothing.
We can
Okay.
always change the roof back next time it needs to be changed.
I mean, the bottom line is that, you know, really, there should be a whole nother roofing product out there that has more longevity and that is more in keeping with probably what was originally on these homes. Yeah.
All right, well, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second for that motion? Okay,
I'm going to do roll call if you don't mind.
please do.
Jay,
Yes. Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Michelle,
I'll change my vote and give him an eye.
Kyra. Aye. Elizabeth. Aye. Mike.
Aye.
Hey, you-
Well, that was a good
motion carried.
turnaround, wasn't it? Thank y'all. Jay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's the last one.
I know,
Oh,
but
look, Northeast
I know.
9th Street is back up again.
no,
This is in Duck Pond,
I'm-
isn't it?
it's a good district.
Oh, yeah.
We
so-
still got old business. All right, that brings us next to old business.
Something like that.
Yep,
You had asked me to look into this property at the last board meeting because of a front door that had the wagon wheel windows at
Yep.
the
Oh,
top.
it's,
And so what you're seeing here is what was approved. So we are sending code enforcement along to inquire as to what's happening with the front door situation.
good.
So I just wanted to let you know that that was being handled.
okay.
This is the one that Liz was bird dogging, but she's not here anymore, so.
So, Jay, no, you mean by wagon, you mean like the semicircle, like half?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you guys, I thought that was, or let me double check.
Builder supply special, yes.
And then, you also have, as part of your board packet, this, it's a proposed resolution that you asked me to prepare at the last meeting, regarding the historic school administration, the school administration building.
Yes,
And, so I'm happy to, you know, read through it for you. If you like
Please.
it, you can, you have to make a motion to approve it, or you can ask me to come back with suggestions, or if
Okay.
you want to add anything.
Okay.
I actually have some discussion about this, actually, because
Well,
I.
let's let her read through it.
Okay, sure, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Kathleen.
No, it's okay. It's a resolution encouraging the school board of Alachua County to preserve, restore, and adaptively utilize the historic school administration building. Whereas the Alachua County School Board Administration Building, originally known as Gainesville Graded and High School, then as Kirby Smith Elementary School, was listed as a contributing structure in both the local historic register and in the National Register of Historic Places as part of the Northeast Gainesville Residential District. And whereas the historic building is an elegant and impressive structure that has anchored the residential neighborhood since circa 1900, used by generations of school children before being vacated and eventually utilized as the Alachua County School Board's administration building. And whereas in the east and downtown Gainesville area, elementary children attend more than 20 different public, charter, magnet, and private schools due to the lack of high-performing elementary schools, which contributes to the low numbers of young families moving into these areas of the city. And whereas there are a number of historic preservation grant opportunities available that could be utilized to offset rehabilitation costs, and there are many examples around the state of Florida and the country where underutilized historic school buildings have been rehabilitated to once again serve the local community. Now therefore be it resolved by the Historic Preservation Board of the City of Gainesville, Florida, that this board voted to recommend to the School Board of Alachua County to consider the proper rehabilitation of the historic school building, to consider returning it to a public elementary school available to all local children in downtown and East Gainesville, and to work with local preservation officials and experts to identify best preservation practices and available grant opportunities for such an endeavor.
Makes me want to cry.
Well,
So needed. These poor kids. They're in downtown. They are going to, like, at least 20, but probably close to 30. These kids downtown do not know each other. If you are living on the east side of Main Street, there is no school. Oh my gosh. Give us the school back. The whole neighborhood, the whole downtown was built around this school.
Yeah.
It's just would be absolutely phenomenal for growth in the downtown area. I mean, I know, the biggest hitch is that everyone says the building's in bad shape, but I think you addressed that here. It's quite simply looking for grant opportunities. I think, too, one of the limitations that is constantly cited is the lack of land that is mandated for elementary schools. However, just like we grant waivers left and right, and just like we say you don't need to park, I mean, this is a walkable school for the children in our downtown area. And as we see more and more buildings, high buildings, I mean, there are going to be families living in them. We need to provide a school for them. So this is amazing.
So I mentioned in the resolution the fact that there's other case studies that have happened. And so without going into detail in this particular resolution, should the school board want to reach out to us or me, I'm certainly happy to provide them with those true living examples of where schools have been shuttered for decades, have been brought back, and are now gleaming, contributors to the community that they are in. And these historic schools were never built on the outskirts of town. They're in the middle of town
They're on prime real estate. Yeah.
because
Mike.
they were an important part of what happened in town.
Yep. Michael, you had a comment?
yeah, so I have a couple things to actually add about this. So, as you guys know, I serve on the county's historical commission, and I have brought this to their attention too, and they too are also very concerned about the building. I know that next meeting in January, we are going to be contacting the school board to kind of talk to them about, hey, what are some opportunities we can do here? Our chairman on that board, Ms. Karen Kirkman, has actually told me in the meeting that she actually attended school there in the basement back in the 60s, and I was like, my goodness. Now, according to Ashley Wood, one of my commissioners on that board, he has claimed that that building has absolutely no ADA compliance whatsoever, and that really. See, okay, so that's something I'd have to talk to you then, Michelle, because from what because when I went to the county historical commission to bring this to their attention, they had mentioned to me that they mentioned the land issue that you mentioned, and they mentioned that there's absolutely no ADA compliance whatsoever in that building.
But that is what a historic preservation architect does.
Yeah.
They build all
Buildings can be adapted.
Yeah, I know.
Easily.
Yeah. Oh, I'm aware. I just
Yeah, it has to be brought up to be fully compliant.
There is
Yes.
For
some,
sure.
there's a little elevator thing, but anyway, I
Yeah.
mean, all of that, I mean, be done.
That's
Okay.
all relatively minor in the scope of things.
okay. See, no, that's what I like to hear because, like, again, when I heard that, I'm like, whoa, maybe that sounds like a daunting task. One thing I will say too is that when it comes to rehabilitating old schools, Gainesville has already done that. There's an example of that. It's the A. Quinn Jones Center, which you guys know that used to be Lincoln High School. So, you know, our community has done that to an extent. We've done something like this before. It's there. We can walk down the street to it. And one more thing, and then I will get off my soapbox. Is what I like to say. Reddick, Florida, which is out of our jurisdiction entirely. Reddick, Florida, just demolished a historic school building that the community was very upset about. And come to find out, my colleague on the county historical commission, Ashley Wood, said he attended that school when he was a kid, and that guy is like, he was here when the trains were still here. So, you know, what I'm going to say is this: is that, you know, we're not going to make the same mistake here as Reddick did. Plain and simple. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board comments?
So I would just like to say I think this is a great way to revitalize our educational capacity on the east side and downtown. I don't know how many students the building could actually feasibly hold, but I think it would at least build an education community that has been so lacking in the area. When I was a kid, we actually would dress up in old-timey clothes and go to what was then Kirby Smith and pretend like we were at school in the old-timey days, and it was always a fun experience. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for this building. I don't know what the school board's capacity is for grant writing and what their expertise is in navigating historic preservation and rehabilitation, but I think it's great that you're willing to be a good partner. And so I hope that, well, I feel like we'll pass this resolution, and I hope the school board takes it and works towards it and uses the resources they have here to really take this from something that has been abused and kind of turn it back into a gem of our downtown area.
I actually have one more small comment, Liz, to what you said. Something that kind of struck me was in my class this semester, which was neighborhood planning. We went and saw neighborhood schools, and you know, we went to Beatrice Parker? Is that the school's name? It used to be Finley. I'm forgetting the. Yeah, we went to that one, and you know, I learned that school at the time when it was built was only supposed to house 200 kids, and now it houses over 600. Mm-hmm. So I'm like they haven't done, and you know, granted, when it comes to historic preservation, they have preserved that property very well. It's a very nice building, and so I'm like, okay, well, the school board has the capabilities to overstock some of these schools that they initially built. So I don't see what the problem is with Kirby Smith being turned back into a school. There's too many examples in the neighborhood of what we're asking for to have already happened. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to answer your questions. I did some research on this, and actually when I was researching it becoming a potential swing school, and at the time of Kirby Smith Elementary's closure, it had 650 pupil centers, they called it, which at that current time. So in
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
for
it
sure.
is.
I mean, it's 650 is not it's not a big number compared to these campus-like schools that have become, but, I mean, if you think about just, you know, we're always talking about parking and traffic and different things. A big part of our problem is that you have, you know, parents like me that are driving their children to school. We're getting into the roadways. I mean, and all the children have the ability to walk, and what we want is an urban walkable community. And, you know, certainly just the prime location of this would be able to cover, you know, a lot of ground, especially where we're doing infill. As we see things like the Power District, I know there's a proposal for some new condominiums on University Avenue. Mm-hmm. You know, we are looking at adding density to this area. And so, you know, if every single person has to get in their car to get
Take
children
their kid
or
across town,
buses, or, you know, at this point we are sort of bursting at the seams. So to be able to do something like this would be innovative and really could be a game changer for our community.
Agreed.
One more thing too I have to add to that. Yeah, I mean, granted, we have the incoming growth, and it's not being used. I just don't understand why the school board hasn't done this yet.
I'd just like to add that we are certainly in a time, I think it's very important to note that right now we have a tax you know, that we are, you know, what is it, 10 years here that we are collecting taxes for, specifically for the infrastructure. You know, our east side schools were really let go for so long, and so now we're seeing, but I mean, we haven't seen a new school built on this side of town, whereas we just had 25 million spent on yet another school on the west side of town. So, you know, the minimal cost. And one other thing to note is before this building was closed, there was a major update done to the building before it was closed back in the 70s and before it went over to become the administration building.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's been work done. I think that was in the 70s when they were doing that. It was pretty extensive at the time. So, but if you walk the halls of that, all of it, it was set up to be a school.
Yeah.
So it's not the best offices. It has, you know, the wide hallways. It has great classrooms. It's just removing all of the infrastructure. I mean, you've got a really strong base because that's what it was built for.
Correct. Okay.
One last thing, and then you
Yeah.
can do what you want to do. But Liz, to your comments, I'm more than happy to help the school board. But what I think the school board may not realize is that there's many people in this community that would be more than willing to step in and help them with identifying grants, writing grants, doing whatever they need to do to get community support, because there's a lot of people that feel very strongly about the fate of this building. And so if the school board could just see past their own issues, I think they would be pleasantly surprised at how much community support they actually have for something like that. And then, Michael, if this gets passed, please take this resolution to the county board,
Oh, 100%.
so that they're aware that we're also working in tandem with your vision.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, one thing too to add is that, you know, at the joint city meeting that happened this Monday, you know, a lot of the commissioners had talked about they want to turn university into a complete street, and I'm like, you know, to what Michelle said earlier, an urban school next to a complete street, that's perfect. Like that's Gainesville's vision. That would help them achieve their vision 0, which, you know, we're already dealing with that. And as you guys know, Maggie Paxton's 1-year anniversary of when she was killed on University is this Thursday. So, you know, we need to hit the ground running. You know, if there's something we can do in our end, we need to do it. And I'm done. No more.
Okay. As to the resolution.
I move to put the resolution forward.
Yeah. Second, third, and fourth.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
The resolution carries. Okay. And I will report back with what happens at the county board.
I have just a couple of items of new business, if you don't have anything else.
Nope.
So in your informational item packet, you'll see some things that happened just this weekend. Dudley Farm, all the excitement at Dudley Farm. A lot of preservation articles coming out about Gainesville. And your very last article in there is not Gainesville, Florida. It's Gainesville, Georgia. But in my research to find you stuff, I found this article, and it was so cool to see this house that they're just getting ready to restore, that I wanted to share it with you anyway. That's Gainesville, Georgia, not Florida. But this just came out today, and it did not make it into your packet. But this is also very cool. This is the history of the first public school for Black students.
Oh yeah, the Union Academy.
Union Academy.
Pleasant Street, right?
Yep, Pleasant Street.
So I wanted to give you that article too.
Yeah, if I'm correct, the Matheson Museum just had a whole little session on this.
And they had a speaker, and I wish we had known about it. Like,
I had purchased 2 tickets, but honestly, I ended up not going.
I also have two more items for you.
Look familiar?
November 9th.
It's the one in Gainesville,
That's
Georgia.
Thursday. This Thursday. Sorry. I refuse to accept that it's December. Oh, hello. Wait, we have a guest.
Oh,
we have a special guest to come be introduced to you. Can you please come?
Interim City Manager Cynthia Curry.
Yes. So, Historic Preservation Board members, this is our new city manager, interim city manager, Ms. Cynthia Curry, and I told her that we were meeting tonight, and I'm so thankful she came down here so that you could meet her.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the invitation. I thought I'd go home this evening, I guess I should say, but knowing that you invited me and you're still here, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've been here now for about 3 weeks. You've probably read about my background. I'm actually from right up the street, I'll call it, Palatka, Florida, East Palatka specifically. Born on the river. And so I have family here in Gainesville. I consider this home. I've been here for about 18 months. I've worked in government for a very long time in Miami-Dade County and higher education at both Florida International University and Florida Memorial University, both in Miami. It's a pleasure to be here in Gainesville offering services and working with people, which is what I like to do. I've known your father for many, many years, mayor of the city of Coral Gables, and all kinds of legal matters with employees. And so we've had many meetings, and it has been a pleasure working with him over the years. And so it's a pleasure meeting you and hopefully getting an opportunity to work with you and members of the board. If I can be of service, please feel free to call me. I'm easy to get to, easy to talk to. I just like to solve problems.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's good to
Chairman?
meet you.
Jay.
Yes, sir.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah. We'll be calling you.
Thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
Good day, Ms. Curry.
Okay, so December 9th, it's Thursday, is the meeting where they're reviewing your board appointments. So all of you have applied to be reappointed, and we do actually have a few actual vacancies. So if you are, there were a lot of applicants. So if you can come. If not, and you really want to stay on the board, I would encourage you to make a few emails saying, I really enjoy what we're doing here on the board, and please consider me for reappointment.
So there are a lot of applicants?
There are a lot of applicants. I did make the commission a spreadsheet that laid out for them everybody's qualifications, and some applicants are far more qualified than the others, and I also identified people that already had experience on the board. So I don't know what they will do, but
When is the meeting?
it's Thursday at 1:30. And then I have one last item, and then you may go, only you have to eat all the food before you go. One of your very own, Miss Kyra Lucas, as you know, she's about to get her doctorate and be awarded that. Do we have a date for that yet, or
Next Friday.
is when you actually get
Are you
it?
gonna walk the
You'll be
18th?
Dr. Lewis now.
Next Friday.
Yay.
Wow.
Finally done.
But the other big news is Miss Kyra Lucas has just been hired to, yes, she's going to Tallahassee to work for the Division of Historical Resources
Oh my
Yay.
God.
to help run the federal tax credit program. And thank you for showing that, actually, because I forgot I had given you those. Those, last time I was in Tallahassee, I picked these up. These are brand new, hot off the press. It is their new little brochure series that talks about all the different programs the Division of Historical Resources does. So Kyra, congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
The Main Street program.
And I'm actually not going to let you quit the board yet until you actually move to Tallahassee. So
Okay. Well, you tell me when
Okay.
to stop coming, and that's when
Okay.
to stop coming.
Wow, this is
So congratulations to you, and I wish you the very, very best of luck.
And thank you guys. Being on this board definitely helped when I was doing my interview. They're like, where's all your experience? And I was like, well, this one time on the board, I dealt with this exact problem.
Yeah, the board.
And Kathleen gave me a glowing review to
Oh,
the
excellent.
head of the bureau.
That's great.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
So will you be in Gainesville for a while longer?
We're hoping to move in January.
Okay. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As soon as the paperwork's finalized and the background check goes through.
great. That's exciting. Very exciting.
Exciting.
We'll be calling you.
Absolutely, I'll be there.
We'll be calling you.
Okay. Is there anything else?
One last thing. So guys, I took a class this semester. I want you all to read this. It's a neighborhood planning class. And so, as what part of my project, I wrote this. And me and my colleague wrote this, and I would like your guys' review on it. You know, you guys have lived, some of you live in Pleasant Street, some of you know this neighborhood more than I did. So, I made this plan. It's been submitted already to my professor, and so I want to give it here and have the local government take a stab at it.
Okay.
I'm so very proud of my board members.
So yeah, I want to know what you guys think. You know, basically we've done a plan. You know, while I was writing this, I thought about a lot of the things that we have discussed on this board, and you guys will see. Here, I will give you guys. I'll go to my section that I wrote this because I wrote this. It didn't even have to be in this plan, but I wrote it just because I want it to be in. There's our outreach questionnaire. I actually sent this to our neighborhood association head, Dorothy Fasby. I mentioned Doug Aberman. Here it is. So one thing here that I wanted to write in the plan was it would address demo by decay, and the solution that I would say was that basically that if the city could, and you know maybe Ms. Kaufman could enlighten us a little more on if this is legal or not, but I would like to kind of see if code enforcement could go out and cite these homeowners who are just letting their houses decay, and then we can use the fines that come from that to be put into a trust fund to help save houses in Pleasant Street. You know, it's kind of, Jay, it's kind of what you wanted, but it's on a smaller scale, and I thought that maybe we might be able to do something like this. But I mean, I would like to have a bigger one where it looks over all the 5 districts. But when I wrote this, I thought about what you said, and I thought about what you and Bill have said, and it's in here now.
It's neglect,
Demo by neglect?
yes.
Okay.
That's the term, demolition by neglect.
Gotcha, okay. I thought it was demo by decay. My apologies.
No, it does decay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the neglect.
The neglect is
That
what
results
does the
in-
damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. I would just, I'd like you all to look at it.
Okay.
You
Any
know?
other board comment?
Do you name any names in this thing?
No, I don't name any of you guys. I name the land development code and just myself. So
Okay.
All right, let's conclude the meeting for tonight. Thank you all.
thank you all.